Hi, I'm Samuel,
And I'm Malachi.
and welcome back to the Veranda Report as we do a deep dive into our rundown on how Oklahoma is the battleground for the deep state right now.
We'd like to start off with the first general election rally, announced June 10th, to be held June 19th. Concerns were made about the coronavirus disease 2019, or COVID-19. Trump said Oklahoma had done a great job with COVID, though, and that Tulsans have managed one of the first successful reopenings in the nation. There was also much criticism for the scheduling of the rally, which fell on Juneteenth, a day celebrating the emancipation of enslaved African Americans. So on June 13th, Trump announced the day to be pushed back a day to June 20th, which is extremely rare. All of this led up to an attendance number, which was pushed through the media.
This misportrayed number was contributed to a TikTok video that went viral, produced by a Mary Jo Lopp, L-A-U-P-P, who worked for Pete Buttigieg's campaign. The low attendance also had other contributing factors. Your typical security at the entrance, such as a bag check, water bottle check, and metal detectors to walk through. There was additional screening for temperature gauging in regards to the coronavirus, and also proper attire, such as your coronavirus mask for protection. And unfortunately, some shirts were not allowed to be worn.
And we were there at the rally, and we'll have Jay on, who we met there as a special guest. But a lot of the atmosphere there wasn't too hostile, it didn't seem. We did encounter a protest, which Brad Pascal had mentioned, and other media sources said they had feet on the ground and said that there was no such thing as this protest. But we were there, we actually confronted them, and they were doing rounds around the block. That was an entrance to the entrance, a gated spot before the actual entrance.
As far as the perception of the attendance goes as well, we're talking in terms of low attendance, but we're looking at a minimum of 6,000 people who attended, and upwards of 12,000. And this is in comparison to Joe Biden's, I think, 20 that month that he had in a gymnasium, all spread out in lawn chairs.
Yeah, so
Folding chairs.
the account that they had taken was to criticize that 6,000 number, but they failed to mention that there was a 7.7 million record viewership on the rally for Trump across the television networks.
Another example of meddling in Oklahoma goes straight to State Question 802, which we voted on back on June 30th. State Question 802 was the expansion of Medicaid for Oklahomans that were underneath the threshold of, I believe it was $17,000 of annual income, which was going to extend health care to 200,000 more low-income Oklahomans.
This was all under the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare.
The organization behind the campaign of Yes on 802 was called Oklahoma Decides Healthcare, which was funded by Oklahoma Decides. Oklahoma Decides is a 501c4 filing, which is a social welfare nonprofit organization, allowing them to keep their donors private and their campaign finances a secret. This is what people call dark money funding for campaigns.
The question fared well in metro areas, including Oklahoma City and Tulsa, but was overwhelmingly opposed in rural areas. Oklahoma voters narrowly decided to expand Medicaid, becoming the first state to amend their constitution to do so. With 100% of the precinct reporting unofficial results, State Question 802 passed by less than 1% point.
The obvious disparity between the urban and rural county vote in Oklahoma on State Question 802 is also suggestive of the 2016 election, where the same counties were around 50%, closer to a Democratic vote for Hillary Clinton. Those same counties also contained the urban cities that have been implementing mask mandates that have been voted in by their city councils. In fact, one of the first cities in the entire United States back in April to implement a mask mandate was Guthrie, Oklahoma. And as far as Oklahoma setting precedents goes, Governor Stitt was also the very first governor to test positive for the coronavirus.
It's interesting to note that Kevin Stitt, prior to having coronavirus, had already mentioned that if it was up to him, it's a personal preference to wear the masks, so no mandate necessary. After he got COVID-19, he still won't consider the mask mandate.
What a G.
He was also against the absentee ballot modification they made as they were attempting to make absentee ballots available to people. You can put in an absentee ballot no matter what.
Without it getting notarized.
No reason, no notary, you can turn it in.
It is kind of under the guise of, with the pandemic going on, it's just an added step in contact with another individual to go to a notary with your absentee ballot. and get it notarized.
A couple of women had come through with a petition requiring somebody take a look at this, which then took it to the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court being predominantly Democratic appointed, I would say that it leaned that way automatically on a 6-3. And that brings us to some guidelines that were part of some of the setup.
So, in particularly, all of the city mandates, especially if you read into the actual ordinance for each one, as well as the position of the Supreme Court ruling, were going along the guidelines and studies being produced by the CDC, the Oklahoma State Department of Health, and the World Health Organization. All of those guidelines are pretty much unanimous in their and uniform in their position on how absolutely terrifying and devastating this pandemic is, and how there is almost no treatment and no cure for this virus. Yeah, they're purporting that there's no cure or no treatment for this virus.
What's that?
The first paper I wrote in college was the Electoral College.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
So you already know the importance of them and where they're supposed to be good for the smaller states.
Yeah, I get people's concept, oh, well, Hillary Clinton won by 2 million votes or 3, everybody's vote needs to count, every single vote. But that's dangerous because someone's vote in California or LA shouldn't matter more than someone who lives in Wyoming, the least populated, 1,000 people. I definitely think if you want to change some delegates or things like that on redistricting, that's fine, but that's up to local,
Yeah, exactly. It should be up to a state level.
Absolutely. And that's what they want. They want to win. The Democrats, the left wants to win by getting rid of the Electoral College. They can go into these big cities like LA and New York and Texas, places where there's 25 million people, and just steal all the votes, and no other state matters. And that's dangerous. And they won't ever get rid of it, I think, but just the idea of them trying is they're out of options. They can't.
Well, and it's one of those things where if we were to, like, let's just say, I don't believe it, but if Trump were not to win, well, what they just did right here is this that snowball effect of now they made an adjustment to Electoral College, Trump's out, and now we can keep that snowball rolling and get rid of the Electoral College.
That's exactly what they wanted to do by making D.C. a state. I mean, they want to add more electoral votes to places like D.C. and Puerto Rico because those people are going to go Democrat. Those aren't going to be Republican here.
No.
And then when they get rid of the Electoral College, or if, for example, Biden wins, there's 25 million people in this country that are here illegally. And over. And let's replace it, not just from Mexico, from all over. And when you make those people citizens right away or give them voting rights, how many people aren't going to not vote for the person that gave them those rights?
Exactly.
There's too many, and let me be clear, I'm not saying people are uneducated that are immigrants. Of course not. We have millions of people come this year, every year, to do doctorates, everything. But a lot of people don't know what we're talking about. And it's easy to vote for someone you feel that you connect to. That's what happened with Barack Obama. 93% of Black people voted for Obama because.
Yeah.
And you can't tell me that all of them knew what was going to happen. He wouldn't have won. So education is important when it comes to topics like this, even just by sharing the link on this video or liking it or reading something. Getting information out there is important because they're suppressing it. There's 100 days out and they're running out of options. I went down there and I was wearing a CNN is fake news t-shirt, and I got into the rally. I actually stayed outside with all the people first, and then I went into the arena. Got through Secret Service, got through Homeland Security, got through local police, no problems. I wore a mask. That was my choice. I just didn't want to be around all those people. So I got in, and it was filling up. The arena was filling up, and then some security guards came over, and they told me I had to change my shirt, and I was surprised because that's not an offensive shirt. I thought it was because I was sitting behind the live TV cameras. And they said I was arguing with them, and I was like, "Hey, I just want to know why.
Mm-hmm.
It's campaign rules. Did Trump say I can't wear it? That's fine. It's because it's who it's from. What's the issue?" And they didn't let me finish, and I switched it inside out. But they said it was too late by then. I argued, and they escorted me out from Tulsa police. I told them what happened, and they didn't even believe me. I said, "Let's go ask them," and they wouldn't. But I was
And
escorted
so,
out.
just to clarify real quick, was it, did you said security guards, were they event staff or security guards? They weren't police or anything like that?
No, so yeah, they were security guards. Well, yeah, it's good. Let me clarify. They were security guards wearing gray uniforms. I think it was
Okay.
BOK Center is the name. So I think that they work for that arena
The
itself.
actual arena.
On
Mm-hmm.
security, because the police were telling me if they say I had to go, they had to take me out, whether it was right or wrong. So
Yeah.
I was talking to some cops in the area. They thought that was kind of odd that I got kicked out. So definitely a violation of my
Yeah.
right. And
That's
it's not a bad shirt.